Right, get ready for the largest gathering of Nigerian lawyers. Over 16,000 legal professionals will convene for the annual General Conference from August the 23rd to the 28th. This year's theme, Pressing Forward, a national posture for rebuilding Nigeria, sets the stage for crucial discussions on transformation or transforming the legal profession, promoting fairness and justice, and more. Joining us in the studio is the chairperson, 2024 NBA Annual General Conference Planning Committee, Oyinkansola Badejo Okusonya, to share insights on the conference. Good morning. It's good to have you join us. You're looking so beautiful.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
and let's begin with the theme for the conference, talking about pressing forward. Why the decision for this theme?
Pressing forward. Well, an interesting conversation. It was actually quite profound. Last year, the president's first conference in his administration, the theme was getting it right.
Right.
And at the opening ceremony of the conference, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, JCFR, he gave a speech when he was declaring the conference open. And in that speech, he charged us, not just as lawyers, but as citizens, to press forward, to look forward, to keep our eyes on the goal. What I think he was saying was that it's going to be a hard road, but we must keep looking forward. So right there was the seed sown for this year's conference. So that conference looked at the areas of security, the economy, administration of justice, from the point of view of getting it right.
Absolutely.
This was a nascent administration, one that was barely 4 months old at the time. And so the theme was apt for that period. After doing that conference and with that theme, getting it right, it then seemed almost inevitable that 1 year later, we should continue to consolidate on the gains of having set the tone by getting it right, to continue to press forward. It's not going to be easy, but we must continue to press forward. And how do we as lawyers
intend to do that?
Well, first of all, you know, our role as lawyers, as the president is so fond of saying, he quotes the late Christopher Shakpara Williams very often, to the extent that he's almost been called Mr. Y.C. Mekiel Christopher Shakpara Williams. And he was the very first Nigerian ever to be called to the bar, become a lawyer. And he had a quote that he said often, that the president often quotes, is that a lawyer lives for the advancement of the cause of his people. So how do lawyers plan to do that? This is what our role as lawyers is. As you know, the motto of the association is promoting the rule of law. And in that promotion of the rule of law, we advance the cause of the nation. So pressing forward, an ideal to press forward, would naturally sit very well with lawyers, because our role in society is to press forward, to continue to promote the rule of law, to continue to ensure that society develops, you know, along strategic lines. By promoting the rule of law, there's nothing that can happen without the rule of law.
Right.
So that's how we plan to do it. And each conference, in its themes, in its particular areas in which we target, strives to do that one way or another.
Interesting stuff. And I know that Nigerians are actually looking forward to what will definitely come out of it. There's so many drama that actually ensued in the very last conference. Was it last conference?
No, it wasn't the last conference.
The conference before the last one. But all the same, we'll talk about that much later. But, if you look at the young aspiring lawyers, some of those who are in school looking forward to joining the profession and getting into the field. But some are always saying, why do we even have to trust the lawyers? Are there some things that we need to look out forward to, that will definitely come out of this particular conference, which will be to the benefit of not just the lawyers, but those who make use of the lawyers?
Every conference strives to do that. So what do we try to achieve with the conferences? The sessions are carefully curated, right, to reflect the dynamism that society is. You see, law is at once a science, an art, and a social science, right? The law is very, very much in tune. with what goes on in society. The law changes according to what happens in society. That's why you keep seeing iterations of various laws that are promulgated in order to address current realities, future realities. You know, so, indeed, at every point in time, the society looks as it ought to the legal profession to provide direction, to provide support. You know, and so, when you say, what can lawyers and citizens look forward to? The more we interrogate the issues that affect us as a society from a legal standpoint, the more beneficial it is to the society, because that's what we are here to do. So certainly in this conference as well, there are emerging areas of law which the conference will address. There are traditional areas of law which continue to see improvements and changes, which the conference will address. We try to make the conferences as practical as possible so that every practitioner can take something away from the conference that will assist him or her in the profession and therefore in their quest to provide direction for the people.
Very important. Another aspect is the confidence reposed on lawyers. This time around, recall that after the 2023 election, there were so many issues around confidence reposed on law, the legal practitioner, their involvement in politics and all of it. I wonder if this is also a conversation that will be coming up in this conference and how you intend to do that as well.
Always, always, as I said, the fact that the law or the lawyers or the legal profession reflects realities in the society suggests that every time there's a topical issue, topical changes, they must be addressed. So, for instance, we have a session on addressing conflicting decisions from the court. So that's a topical issue. That's something which affects not just the legal profession, but also investment. You know, there must be sanctity of contracts and sanctity of decisions, if you like, consistency in our decisions. Otherwise, we don't provide an enabling environment for investment to thrive. You know, investors must know that if they enter into contracts in Nigeria, they invest in Nigeria, should a dispute arise, as they would often do in all human interaction, then there's a certainty of what the outcome could possibly be. So certainly that's an issue that's been looked at. Coming out of elections last year, we did have sessions on the elections. We continue to have sessions on the elections in an attempt to make sure that our election cycles are always better. We shorten the period and the disputes that arise from those. The CAMA, which was originally the one we were using, was a 1968 Act, and which saw humongous changes the last couple of years, is being looked at. Yes, we have a law for persons living with disability, and we're examining how far that law has gone since it's been passed into law, how well it has protected persons living with disability, and how well it's future-proofed, if you like. So there are always sessions that will address everything that's going on around us.
So just give us highlights of the sessions.
So I just did.
Okay.
Yes, I'll tell you. So very exciting. We have the first woman, first African to lead the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, GCON. She is giving the opening keynote address at the opening ceremony. Yes, we're very excited about that. At the opening plenary the following day, we have the former president of Ghana, Mr. John Dramani Mahama, who's going to give the keynote address at the opening plenary. In that plenary as well, session which is particularly exciting to me, we have female bank leads. You know, right now we have about 11 female, yes, banks that are being headed by women. Unfortunately, the time of year did not allow us to have all of them on stage. That's the powerful picture that we wanted to project at the MBA conference. But we have a few of them who are coming in person, and we're very excited about that. We've called that session "The Glass is Shattered."
Oh, wow.
Yes, and
not shattering the shattering the glass.
Not shattering the glass.
The glass is
shattered.
shattered already.
Everything is
It's
taken out.
shattered.
Yes, because we take the view that the fact that we have 11 women heading banks is a huge step for gender advancement.
Absolutely.
It's a huge milestone for gender advancement in this country. We want to talk about that. We want to hear their stories, how they got there. We have at least 50% of the legal profession is women and doing very well in various endeavors of life. As you know, and permit me to boast a little bit about the profession, you will find that most world leaders, shall I say successful world leaders, have a law degree. They're all lawyers. And so we want to learn from people who have leadership positions to prepare our female lawyers and male lawyers for the leadership professions, positions that the legal profession prepares us for naturally.
Right.
I'm not going to let too many cats out of the bag. We still want more people to register for the conference.
Right.
But I'm very proud of the program that we've curated for this conference. We've been calling it internally a conference like no other. That's what we've promised, a conference like no other. Yeah. And in all ramifications, including the sessions, the side events, and so on, everything. Today, for instance, we start our football competition. We have the President's Cup at every conference, and that starts a few days before the conference actually starts. So it's kicking off today, and lawyers, we have about 129 branches all over Nigeria. So lawyers from the various branches, they compete for the President's Cup. And a few years ago, we started having female football as well. So that's very exciting.
It's interesting to watch.
Yes, absolutely.
I love the fact, each time you mention female this, female that, I can see the blush, the feeling of pride in you.
Absolutely.
And on the other side, you mentioned, and men too. I wonder how men are now becoming the endangered species, because oftentimes we talk about gender equality, now we move to gender parity. Now we say gender, gender this, gender that, but then the female folk are actually taking over, the world. But it's fine. We are in good hands. But part of the conversations we're having in the country currently is the Nigerian Constitution, the grant norm, which serve as the Bible for lawyers. I do not know how you intend to incorporate these into the conversation you'll be having during the conference, because the Patriot, for instance, and some other groups are advocating new constitution for the Nigerian country. Do you feel we have a lot of problems, within the Nigerian constitution, inside the Nigerian constitution, that we need to either jettison or maybe just continue doing the patching and amendments that we've been doing over the years?
Well, I think a good constitution should be an organic document. Again, like I said, because the society is constantly changing. The law has to change to keep up with it, and in some cases lead it, actually. So the fact that constitutional reviews, constitutional changes, reforms occur is not a bad thing. It means that society is evolving and that the Constitution, not in its fundamental principles, but in its implementation, should be amended to suit that, especially where you find that the Constitution is either lacking or not quite sufficient in particular areas. I don't see that there's anything wrong with constitutional amendments. The annual general conferences always strive to examine our laws, our statutes, the ways in which they affect us as lawyers and as people.
That's right.
And where the constitutional issues are the fore, they always feature one way or another. The laws that we operate under all have to feed into the Constitution.
That's correct.
If there's any inconsistency, they avoid to the extent that they're inconsistent with the Constitution. And so even in the process of, examining the laws that we operate under and amending them where necessary, we're undergoing changes that eventually become the laws by which we live. And so in every session, really, there will be one form of interrogation of the existing status quo, if you like, and how it can be made better. That's the whole idea of conferring. That's the whole idea of coming together every year to have a legal conference so that we can examine where we are as a profession, as a people, and how we can make it better.
Press forward.
Pressing forward.
Especially now, the matter of reforms has always come to the fore.
Absolutely.
Yes, over the years. We know that this conference is a yearly thing that happens. So what should Nigerians be looking forward to with regards to reforms? And at the end of the day, when this conference is over, because there is something you want to achieve with this, and I believe that that is also tilting towards reforms in the profession and every other thing, basically. And one particular one is adoption of reforms, adoption of tools that make work easy and all of it, because at some point there was, I think it was in Kano, that they had that seating where some persons said that they couldn't use Zoom for all of this, for the seating. And so it was difficult, you know, people adopting. I wonder if that is part of the conversation as well, because these are part of the reforms that Nigerians want to see with the profession.
You see, adaptations, I think, take place in spite of us. And that's why they take place in spite of us. A good example, in the early 2000s, when mobile telephony came into the country, it was almost like it was going to be out of reach of many people, you know. At that time, it was really expensive. Remember the Not 9 Not days? Yeah. Yeah, and then it then became, and then before you knew what was happening, it was like a revolution. Even my grandmother in the village had a phone. And then before you know what happened, she has 2 phones because this one doesn't even work well. That way, you know, so these things happen in spite of us. COVID made sure that the way we approach courtroom will never be the same again. And it has shown us a different way of doing things. So this isn't just restricted to the legal profession. But like I said, we do provide direction. And it's not just in our conferences that we advocate reforms or promote reforms. Even from administration to administration. I was listening to the speaker that you had earlier on, talked about continuity. Yeah. This is something that, proud to say that the NBA has really been in the forefront of. From administration to administration, we have policies that are carried on and kept on, all for the benefit of the profession and the people. So this administration, this outgoing administration of Mr. Y.C. Mekiel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, OON, has done a lot of work in the area of judicial reform, judicial remuneration, you know, an area that has not been looked at for a very long time. That's right. And it's recently been signed into law, and we have a situation whereby judicial officers' remuneration and benefits and so on and so forth have been looked at in a holistic and realistic manner. Interesting. Yes, and going forward, that can only be a good thing for the judicial system. At the end of every conference, we issue a communique arising out of all the things that have been discussed. This is not just platitudes. It's not just a document that just lies fallow. It provides a basis for the profession to take conversations forward with the relevant areas of government. And this happens frequently. That's right. So a lot of the things that we see in terms of reforms actually stem out of the discussions that we've had at our conferences. Interesting. So the 16,000 registered legal professionals should look forward to having a great time. That's what you're saying at the end of the day. A conference like no other. Of course, because you put in the work, you chaired this. Not just me. I've had the benefit of a committee of extremely dedicated bar men and women. Wow. The fact that I can be here before you this morning means that so many people are doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Absolutely, absolutely. So we must say well done to you and your team. Thank you very much. For putting together a conference like no other. Thank you very much. All right, this is where we'll have to wrap up the conversation. We must thank you, the chairperson, 2024 NBA Annual General Conference Planning Committee, Oyinkansola Badejo Kusonya, for your time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great time. Thank you for having me. Thank you.